This is Sybert signing in to Kane's Wrath on the map Twilight City, and this is the first replay that I will be kind of post-casting from the World Championship round of 64, spawning as the yellow GDI on the left side. It is advancedNoob. And on the right side as the green GDI, it's Green Zero. And some of you may have already seen Spartacus live cast this game. He was in this room casting it, and so you may have already caught it there. But I actually caught part of that myself, and then I actually closed the stream because I was like, I want to cast this game for myself, and I don't want to know exactly how it goes. So I did indeed end up closing that stream, and then I messaged him on Skype, and I was like, hey, save that replay. And then he promptly forgot. But fortunately, other people saved it. And this game, you may already know the outcome of it, but it is pretty much guaranteed to be a pretty awesome game. A lot of people have been talking about it, and of course it's been getting quite a bit of attention. GDI versus GDI, are we just going to be seeing pit bulls all game long? Well, I certainly hope not. And a game like this, by the way, this is Harvester for Sale. I probably will be calling him advancedNoob. That is kind of his more commonly known name. I think I have casted him as Harvester for Sale before, but not ever as advancedNoob, which was what he was known back a while ago when he was first playing Kane's Wrath. I wasn't really around then, so I won't chit-chat too much about that. But I was planning on uploading some of the games that I had actually live cast, but I ended up having to take my computer in for some repairs, and I backed up my data, but I did not back up the live stream recording, and unfortunately I lost all of the games that I cast that day. They are over on Twitch, but exporting from Twitch, unless I just export the whole live stream, is such a hassle. I'm going to try to do some highlights from that stream so that I can break it up into series, but we had State of the Union versus Spectre, a pretty good series, and then some other random matches, as well as a dual cast with Spartacus that we kind of did impromptu. It was Unleashed versus Worker, and that was quite a bit of fun as well, so be sure to keep your eye out on some of the other casters' channels. I know a lot of people are going to be producing content. I'm not exactly sure who, other than myself, Green Zero, and Spartacus. I don't know if CNC Zone or Tiberium X or any of the other guys are going to be producing any content. But we will go ahead and see. Pitbull is going to be coming out from Green Zero, exactly what you would expect to see in a GDI mirror. I mean, if you don't see Pitbulls, like, right out of the gate for the first 20 minutes, you're going to be like, is this actually a GDI mirror? It's just pretty darn common. Of course, a bit of an over-exaggeration there, but I'm sure you guys all get the idea. Green Zero going for that pretty standard expansion timing, and Where is going to be the same thing coming out from advancedNoob. He is not going to be going for the same thing. We'll have to see. It is going to be possibly into just hammerheads. I'm assuming that's why he got the rocket troopers. He does not have AP ammo started, though, so it could actually end up being orcas. He's going for the move after that, but Green Zero wants to make sure that he swings by this airfield just so that he knows that it's there. I'm not sure if he actually caught sight of it before. He may very well have. And advancedNoob, it looks like, got eyes on Green Zero, so he knows exactly what Green Zero is doing. We do have orcas out on the field, and it looks like the rocket troopers may have just been for that extra bit of defense. Oh, Green Zero doing some pretty heavy damage to that MCV. That may be forcing a barracks for the engineer and the insta-repair of that MCV. advancedNoob needs to be very careful that he does not lose that, but he does have the Predator tanks moving out, which is, of course, a nice response. And then orcas after that should be heading out to try to pick off a couple of harvesters. I know they picked up and left somewhere. Not sure exactly where they went down to the southern part of the map. But Predator tanks, of course, just a good all-around unit. You can get lots of crushes off with them. And of course, since you're not up against Nod, you know you don't have to worry about fanatics or anything like that. Or, you know, disintegrators, since they also do damage when crushed. And it's 4 orcas, lots of Predator tanks as well. And by lots, I, of course, mean just 3 or 4 at the current moment. But Green Zero is going to be going for that man spam just to kind of add that extra bit of defense. Definitely a good idea. Of course, rocket troopers do good damage versus orcas, and of course they take very little damage versus orcas, or from orcas, and of course they do well versus Predator tanks as long as you split and don't get instantly crushed. And harvesters, one may be getting picked off, but if he loses all 3 of these pit bulls, it may end up not being worth it. He is going to suicide that last pit bull and does not get the kill. A slight overstep there by Green Zero, but in his position, I think most people would have gone for that same thing and be like, I can get this harvester. In the end, he does lose 2, and he will almost be losing a 3rd, and yes, the rocket splits were good enough, which means that advancedNoob was able to pick up 3 harvester kills. If you let an extra rocket go to one of the harvesters, then you're not actually able to kill all of the harvesters. but he was indeed able to. Which is probably just sort of a thing that most pro players don't do, but my gosh, when you're as bad as me, you do it all the time. However, we do have an attempt at an APC engineer coming out from Green Zero, and I mean, he doesn't do this like a super ton, but it seems like he does do this fairly often, so you do have to watch out for that when playing against him. He's a sneaky little fellow, and he will try to APC engineer your stuff. Predator tanks are going to be getting caught out. Of course, they do get those repairs, and they might actually be getting an extra harvester kill, but if he ends up losing all of these tanks, then it won't probably really be worth it. However, Green Zero does still have a fair amount of Tiberium here, and he also does have both of those refineries. As you can see, action starting to split up across the map, and these tanks, I mean, they're getting taken out essentially just by the production of Green Zero. Actually, if he gets this last tank, which it might have been worth it just to go for that tank, he would have been burying his rear armor to those Predator tanks, which he ended up doing anyways. The rockets, as you can see, there are a couple going to basically waste. He could have picked up maybe a couple more kills on those Predator tanks. Green Zero's just like, all right, that main base is pretty much screwed, but he is going to be going for the third base. As you can see, he's got his Predator tanks going to be actually under assault by the Predator tanks of advancedNoob in a few seconds, though, but those Orcas definitely getting their money's worth, and that is exactly what advancedNoob wants. Green Zero, on the other hand, rolling in with lots of Predator tanks. advancedNoob's, he's already got the answer to those Predator tanks, which is, of course, those rocket troopers in the north. It's just Tiberium doing a bit of damage there, trying to pick up some more harvester kills. advancedNoob is going to be getting caught out by the units of Green Zero, and a mirror matchup. We've got Predator tank assaults from each player getting shut down by Predator tanks and rocket troopers, so it's like these two players are just doing exactly what the other player is doing. And these Orcas, I mean, they're trying to deny these Predator tanks, and they will definitely get the deny there, the splash damage, allowing them to clean up both of those Predator tanks at the same time. advancedNoob going to be in a solid position. He's got that laser fence. He did potentially, no, I don't think he actually did throw an engineer into that field, or into that MCV. He instead just went ahead and used that repair ability, which is kind of the longer way to do it. I don't think AP ammo has been researched just yet for either one of these players. Let's go ahead and check the Rifleman squad. No, they have not. And advancedNoob, yeah, he doesn't have it on his watchtower, so he's going to be a little bit unhappy about that. Laser fencing getting thrown down around that, around the command post, which means that with this watchtower, we're keeping an eye on that war factory. It's going to be very difficult for that APC engineer to do a lot. However, Green Zero does lose it right there, so that's quite a bit of money down the drain. And Orca's swinging around again, sniping off another harvester, and there's no war factory here. Green Zero did indeed sell that off, and oh, if he would have timed that a little bit better, he potentially could have gotten a couple more rockets off. advancedNoob overstepping his bounds. This is a bit too much of a commitment here, considering he won't actually get a single harvester. As you see there, we actually did have a very slight misclick in terms of focus firing. He tried to switch targets to another harvester, but that harvester, it did survive. I mean, as close to death as it was, I mean, that's so ridiculously close to death. Green Zero narrowly escaping there, and I mean, he's going to be having that harvester for potentially the rest of the game, especially if he gets some more repairs on it. He's going to be very happy about that. advancedNoob trying to really stick with that economic damage, but it didn't quite work out. Bloodhounds or potentially just the Rifleman squad reinforcements, Rifleman rocket trooper reinforcements. Green Zero, he's rolling past this army. Is that really a good idea? I'm not entirely sure. Although he does have an opportunity to cut off the reinforcements, he's going for a bit of a base trade scenario. It is going to be the Bloodhounds. That's quite a bit of cash being brought into this army here, and Green Zero going to be taking a little bit of damage here on his Predator tanks, but he's rolling right past the forces, and he's like, hey, you know what? You're going to go ahead and sack my expansion? Well, I'm going to go ahead and tear through your expansion as well. These two players going to be just rolling through their opponent's expansions, and again, Green Zero escapes with another harvester, but it looks like advancedNoob is going to be rolling in here. Sonic Emitters versus Shatterers are going to be the battle that we are seeing. Not something you see very often. Extra rockets going to be slashing into these base defenses. Green Zero pumping out Juggernauts. He's also got the base defenses on cue, and advancedNoob not doing the same, losing that advanced power plant. That's going to be very unfortunate for him. Does he have shockwave artillery, anything like that? The Marv is going to be coming out relatively soon here. AP ammo does finish up for advancedNoob. I'm not sure exactly when that was. Refineries going down one after the other. Laser fencing is most likely going to be able to save this MCV. The MCV is going to be taking a lot of damage. In the meantime, though, the Sonic Emitter is absolutely imperative to the defense of Green Zero. The APC does go down. The Sonic Shatterer is still here to go ahead and hold off the Juggernaut. A second one does go down. Engineers may become crucial in the last few minutes here, and unfortunately for Green Zero, he's going to be losing a lot of these Predator tanks. Will he actually get the kill on that MCV? advancedNoob scrambling to deal with that attack from Green Zero. Can he actually do anything about it? Green Zero forced to sell off that last refinery. Unfortunate for him. He is going to be rolling his Predator tanks back. He might be able to kind of delay the rocket troopers of his opponent from reinforcing, but no, advancedNoob decides to pull himself back after hearing the Marv that has come out onto the field. Green Zero may just be going for some engineers inside of that Marv. As you can see, he's got the one zone trooper from selling off the Reclamator hub, and we'll have to see what he decides to go for other than that Predator tanks getting eaten up. Those rocket troopers extremely effective, and I mean, if we start to see some EMP grenades, which we had an armory, it looks like he may have sold it off. Do we have any grenadier squads out on the map? Because that is what's going to be very important. Rocket troopers, the DPS is really going to be the best when you're locking down that Marv with the EMP grenades, and since both of these players are GDI, you don't have to worry about being steel talents and not having those EMP grenades or anything like that. It looks like he did get composite armor as well. So he's got AP ammo, composite armor, but I don't know that he actually has any grenadier squad. So even if he did get the EMP grenade upgrade, it wouldn't even matter. Yeah, unfortunately for advancedNoob, although I do like how he's cleaning up the main base of Green Zero, you don't want to give him any sort of a stronghold to be able to retreat to, because any extra infrastructure that you don't have to rebuild in the mid to late game is definitely very nice, especially when you start moving around the map, and it's like having that extra advanced power plant in your main base, constantly providing you power as you move around, can be so important. He will get the kill on a couple more rocket troopers here, but it's not nearly enough. More rocket troopers and more rifleman squad as well going to be rolling in here for advancedNoob. Green Zero going to be going potentially to Marvis that middle field. No, he's just going to be going straight for the old main base of his opponent. I mean, the majority of this base is expendable as long as he starts rebuilding some of the stuff up north. But I mean, the war factory isn't really being used right now. These refineries are going to be, or that refinery and harvesters rather, are going to be less and less useful. But here's where the EMP grenades would be really useful. At the same time, on the right side of the map, we do have the watchtower defense. Green Zero doesn't have AP ammo, which is very unfortunate for him. And the Rose rocket trooper is going to be getting lots of free shots off. But advancedNoob, he's just taking the damage. He is just getting absolutely crushed here. Why are you not actually microing your forces? Potentially he's controlling over here. AP ammo does finish up for Green Zero. Unfortunately for advancedNoob, he could have actually split his rocket troopers instead of just letting that Marv drive in a straight line. Orca's going to be coming in here, and there are no rocket troopers inside of this Marv. Green Zero going to be taking a ton of damage. Those Orcas might be able to finish it off. I don't think they'll have quite enough rockets, but it's going to be very close regardless. More and more rockets. How many Orcas is that? Actually, the Marv goes down, and Green Zero doesn't have a lot of army left. He is going to be getting assaulted from the rear, but unfortunately for advancedNoob, the watchtowers have held, and Green Zero may be losing this tib spike, which would be annoying for him. But that was a crazy amount of Orcas. Wow, I didn't actually think they were going to have enough rockets, but it's like the rockets just never stopped. He must have hard points or something. He does indeed have hard points. He doesn't have the other upgrade, the Sonic Pod or whatever it is indeed called, but not really all that useful. GDI doesn't have a lot of stealth, and unless we start seeing a ton of sniper teams, not really going to be too big of a deal. I do like this from advancedNoob. He didn't just pull this Shatterer back, and that's something that we saw earlier in the game, striking out against the main base, the old main base of Green Zero. Definitely something he needs to keep an eye on. I would like to see him start picking off some of these spikes, and Green Zero doing the same thing. I would like to see him capture this spike or pick it off. However, here come the Orcas. A ton of rockets, 12 or 16 Orcas, however many are actually here. He's got quite a few. He's going to be pulling some of them to the far side away from those anti-air guns, and there goes the MCV. That is just an insane amount of Orcas. Are the pulls going to be good enough? The laser fencing, I think, did fire off there. I'm not actually sure if that was just my eyes playing tricks on me or if I did see that laser fence. However, 3 more Orcas, the Orca Strike rather, going to be coming out across the map, and those rocket troopers getting focused down. It's unfortunate that that is the fate that wait a second, no, he gets all of the rocket troopers. That Elite Shatterer will live on. He is going to be moving away. The MCV for advancedNoob is still out on the field. Green Zero absolutely up against the ropes. He's got infantry out on the map. He lost his MCV, and he's got finally enough rocket troopers to clean up that Shatterer. His economy isn't too bad. I mean, he does have this field, but it's not going to last too much longer. He would love to have an MCV to go ahead and start re-expanding back to his home, but he can start long-distance harvesting this middle blue if he actually gets the opportunity. As you can see, advancedNoob is looking to set up base there, and there's the MCV from Green Zero. Sniping off that refinery, could potentially snipe off that power plant as well. Nice moves there by advancedNoob, going to be clearing out that refinery. And again, just using a couple of rockets on this tib spike or recapturing it for himself would be a nice move by advancedNoob. Of course, that extra income has been denied a little bit there by advancedNoob, but other than that, he wants to make sure that he cleans those up as much as he can. I mean, he's been sitting on those 2 spikes for pretty much his entire in-game life, so to speak, his entire time in this match, and cleaning up that second spike for Green Zero. I mean, I don't know how much longer this game is going to go on, so if it ends up not going on very much longer, then cleaning up those spikes wouldn't be a huge deal at this point. But I have a feeling this game is going to stretch out at least a little bit further. Green Zero going to be rolling up. He's got a nice mix of APCs and rocket troopers. Of course, he's got that anti-tank and anti-infantry. Oh, slash anti-air composition. Hammerhead transition. Pretty hardcore, but there's a fair amount of rocket troopers here, as well as the APMO APCs will lend a lot of anti-air power to this army, and that was a lot of hammerheads. A definite mistake there by our friend advancedNoob, who just lost, I don't even know, probably 10 or 12,000 credits worth of hammerheads, and that was just not very good at all. Here come the Orcas. They're going to be able to do some pretty decent DPS against the Harvesters and also against the APCs, but are they just going to be getting cleaned up by the rocket troopers below? Oh my gosh, advancedNoob, did he just give away... Oh, I think that was actually, that was the entire army for advancedNoob. It was all in those aircraft. Suddenly, Green Zero is not in such a tough spot. advancedNoob was just like, here, I want you to actually be able to just kill all of my stuff. A definite mistake there, and I think he just didn't know how much power Green Zero had in those rocket troopers. A fully heroic APC now in the mix, and this is where sonic emitters would be absolutely awesome against these tier 1 units, but unfortunately the tech lab, I do believe, went down very long ago, if he even ever built it in this game. I don't remember if he did. Has he gotten anything tier 3? Not really that I can remember. Green Zero trying to do the damage that he needs against these harvesters, focusing them down would be denying that eco to advancedNoob, but of course those repairs from the War Factory and the incoming Predator tanks are other things that Green Zero has to worry about. advancedNoob, oh my gosh, I mean, the triple airfield Orca, that was like 12 Orcas that ended up, 10 or 12 Orcas that ended up going down, plus all of those hammerheads. If you just want to, someone wants to calculate how much money was lost in that those two engagements. In those 2 engagements, like that 20-second period of this game for advancedNoob, like how much of his income throughout this match was just devoted and then lost, and he took out like rocket troopers, APCs, maybe a harvester or 2 of Green Zero's, like not the damage that he needed to do considering how much of an investment those attacks were. However, we do have the Predator tanks going to be getting pulled back. The MCV from Green Zero can go ahead and head on north at some point. I mean, that's a lot of Tiberium up in the north there. As you can see, this field was largely untouched for the majority of this game, and grabbing that blue tip is definitely nice. And I think advancedNoob will be able to transition out of this. It was just such a huge investment. Fortunately for advancedNoob, Green Zero didn't have a very tough standing army at that point. He had rocket troopers and APCs, but that's not quite enough to really deal with the production of advancedNoob on top of the AP ammo watchtowers. If he had maybe some other units that were better at killing buildings, then it would have potentially been a different story. We do have the scan going to be going down, revealing pretty much everything that advancedNoob has to offer. A couple of harvesters there getting stopped, unfortunately, for advancedNoob, but he does get them back working. And I'm not sure if that heroic APC went down or not. He might just be somewhere else on the map. Green Zero going to be protecting his MCV, very important there. This spike does still stand. I mean, advancedNoob has definitely had the opportunity to grab it or take it out himself. Unfortunately, he just hasn't done that, which means Green Zero, he's getting more and more credits from that. It's not a huge eco boost, but it's definitely an eco boost. And my gosh, advancedNoob with the sniping on those APC engineers. He's got at least 2 of them at this point, which is a fair amount of credits that Green Zero has invested, but it's not as big of a deal as it would have been if he was really banking on that APC engineer. I mean, he's still got a standing army. He's still got eco behind this. He's expanding up north. taking out that APC engineer is not going to be a huge deal. However, denying these harvesters, I mean, advancedNoob does have this base down here, which is going to be keeping him in this game, and he can transfer harvesters down there, but he wants to make sure that he can secure this Tiberium if at all possible. Using these Shatterer tanks and having them not get taken out is definitely nice because the splash damage is absolutely awesome. Green Zero gets completely cleaned up here, and we may need to see him just start teching a little bit more and get back up to some Juggernauts, so he's got kind of a buffer of, you know, tier 1 units, but he's got the Juggernauts in the back doing the massive DPS, but that's a huge investment. That's the only thing, is that he would have to get back up to that tier 3, which I don't think he's been able to maintain at this point. So going for the tier 1 units, I definitely understand why he's doing it, but against, I mean, the tier 1 units of his opponent, they're just getting absolutely smashed because he doesn't have the numbers. But that tier 3, again, it's going to be very difficult to do on the limited eco that each of these players are on. The limited eco that they have at their disposure. And the Green Zero going for the counterattack a little bit here, but the counterattack is looking a little bit more fearsome from advancedNoob. He was on the defensive a little bit there, but now he's going on the offensive. He's trying to sneak some kills in around the side of Green Zero's base, hoping to hit at an angle that is definitely weaker, and he may have found it. Although, if he would have brought on a couple of more rocket troopers just to help defend kind of the flank and deny some of the Predator tanks, that could have been potentially a good idea. Green Zero going to be getting a couple of shots off down there, or in the north, but also going to be getting some nice shots off down here, at least forcing the harvesters away, maybe even clearing a lot of them out. However, he is going to be taking a lot of damage back home. Fortunately for him, none of these are upgraded power plants, which means if he loses them, it likely won't send him into that low power mode, but it might be just enough to clean up Green Zero. He's going to be needing those base defenses to help hold the line, but he does have a fair amount of units here just in terms of production. He does have a couple of Predator tanks kind of sitting around not doing anything, and cleaning up this base was definitely a nice move. Needs to make sure that he rallies all of his Predator tanks in there, and the rocket troopers again going to be leveling out a lot of these Orcas. They will be able to clean up 1 or 2 more Predator tanks, but no, actually, depending on how many shots they actually have left, I guess he won't be able to clean up any more Predator tanks. However, the APC is going to be getting pulled back. The Predator tanks of advancedNoob's already on the full retreat, and advancedNoob does indeed get eyes on this base. He's got his MCV over here throwing down that barracks right pretty much on the front line, and he's going to be going for those engineers. The watchtower is here, and the Predator tanks are going to be... Oh, did he actually just get the kill on 2 engineers? I'm not exactly sure if one spawned right there as the watchtower did. And I mean, Green Zero needs to be careful that he controls his watchtowers. If there's any more engineers going to be coming out, it would be pretty silly if advancedNoob ended up going for more engineers at this point. However, on the left side of the map, even more harvesters going down. And advancedNoob, I mean, he doesn't need a ton of harvesters, but he definitely doesn't want to be giving them away. Of course, you get that veterancy, and then also you're going to be denying any potential future mining that those harvesters could have been doing. So losing the harvester is not something you want to do, but it's not necessarily super game ending at this point either. Green Zero, he's got a lot of production here just with the, well, he doesn't have a ton of production, but he does have a fair amount of units and the base defenses, which are really what's helping him hold the line, and he may be able to claim a second MCV from his opponent. Actually, no, he didn't actually get the first one, I don't believe. That was advancedNoob who ended up cleaning up Green Zero's earlier MCV. But this game getting spread out all across the map, and the Predator tanks from Green Zero chasing away advancedNoob's Harvester, which made it all the way across the map for pretty much no reason at all. And the Sonic Emitters, the Shatterers rather, going to be doing some nice DPS, and the splash damage is where their strength lies. However, Green Zero's tanks aren't super clumped up. There is a couple of shots there that are going to be doing some pretty crazy damage. advancedNoob could have potentially had that engagement happen quite a bit differently if the Predator tanks would have been on the front lines instead of the zone shatterers or the shatterers getting cleaned up first. The Predator tanks would have been tanking a lot of the shots. It looks like he may have been controlling the Orcas instead of controlling that army, which, I mean, if he gets kills with the Orcas, then potentially that's going to be good as well, as he cleaned up like a Predator tank or a Harvester up here. But the AA guns are going down for Green Zero, and if only he had been able to get out Tungsten earlier in this game, when he actually had that tier 3, that would have potentially really changed how those Orcas were actually in this match. Green Zero going for the counterattack. A lot of just small skirmishes in this game. We haven't seen necessarily like the huge macro into sort of death ball that you sometimes see in Kane's Wrath, but instead it's been a lot of smaller skirmishes, which is definitely a lot more enjoyable to watch. And of course, these two players controlling relatively well throughout this entire game. Green Zero chasing away that MCV with just a Rifleman squad, also going to be losing a couple of Rifleman squads, not a huge deal. But this is going to be where advancedNoob needs to focus. He needs that eco, and I'm not sure how much money he's actually banking right now, but he needs to make sure that he gets that eco reestablished. And oh, this one rocket trooper gets almost cleaned up. He didn't actually get cleaned up by the orcas. Instead, that machine gun on top of the harvester was able to finish him off. But Green Zero does have eyes on the expansion of advancedNoob, which is definitely very important. He needs to make sure that he swats that down if at all possible. And we do have a surveyor coming in for Green Zero, but it gets spotted immediately by that power plant, I would think. Although the vision on the power plants isn't super great, I think it's definitely able to see that surveyor. I'm not 100% sure. But Green Zero potentially going for the proxy hidden expansion. We'll have to see if it works out for him. He has been able to hold this base, which has definitely paid off for him, as he has been able to get just a ton of money out of that Tiberium, and he may just have to go ahead and re-expand. So Twilight City, definitely a map that's allowing these two players to move around a lot and just get more and more Tiberium as they're letting fields regrow, and then move on past that. But there's the barracks. Is Green Zero actually going for an engineer, or is it going to be a lot of rocket troopers to try to shut down the harvesters? It is indeed the engineer headed out. We'll have to keep an eye on that, because selling off that MCV could be a nice enough cash boost to allow Green Zero to push on forward, as well as denying the eco of his opponent. There's nothing queued here. advancedNoob doesn't have a watchtower. He's just now going to be starting it. Is it going to be fast enough? I don't actually know. He may be forced to pack it up. He does get the pack up just before it actually starts moving, or just before he actually gets captured there. That was very close there. I wasn't sure if he was paying attention, as of course you can just use the hotkeys, and he's going to be forced to repack up that MCV. He needs to make sure that he doesn't end up losing it to the capture of that engineer. But here are the APMO APCs, and they'll clean up that engineer without any trouble at all. Green Zero does get the harvester and the refinery down, though. It does get picked off. Ooh! advancedNoob with the nice plays here. Definitely a nice move. Wasting some of those rockets on that rifleman squad. Not exactly optimal, but not too big of a deal. Actually, maybe if Green Zero is able to hold on here, it will end up being a big deal, because taking down that outpost is definitely nice, but as long as he's got the build radius from the other buildings, and of course he's still got that refinery, which is quite an investment in itself, then Green Zero is going to be feeling okay about this expansion, especially if he's able to clean up some of these forces of his opponent. We'll have to actually see here. Watchtowers coming down from both players. It's the battle of the base defenses, and it looks like the repair drones are definitely going to be allowing Green Zero to start doing some real damage here. Unfortunately, his watchtower's not detecting those mines. He may have to deploy one a little bit closer to the front lines there, so that he can actually get that stealth detection and not lose any more units or health to those mines, as that would be pretty unfortunate there. It looks like that Predator tank, those Predator tanks will be able to clean up one more pit bull. And the last shot from the pit bull, not enough to clean out that Predator tank. Such a low-tier game for the majority of it. Not even really a lot of those Tier 3 upgrades on these Tier 1 units. Railguns not really being a part in this match. And Juggernauts and the Marv were in this match a little while ago, but it's not been seen since then. So it's just mostly been the Tier 1 stuff for these players. Lots of infantry, lots of Predator tanks, APCs, even some pit bulls here and there. And then, of course, the big Tier 2 transition to air. The GDI Air Forces of advancedNoob. However, Green Zero going to be moving out. There's not a lot here to stop him. He would need a lot more APCs than that just to deal with the rocket troopers alone, not even counting the Predator tanks. So unfortunately for advancedNoob, he may actually end up losing that expansion. And Green Zero is going to be running right through that tip field, which isn't helping him. But as long as he doesn't stick around in it, it shouldn't hurt him too much there either. advancedNoob going to be just chasing Green Zero around. Ring around the Rosie, or ring around the Tiberium field is a little bit more accurate. And Green Zero might actually be winning this Predator tank battle. One more shot will finish him off, and Green Zero escapes with a Predator tank. So very nice for him. advancedNoob finally able to grab that tib spike at some point, but Green Zero grabbed the tib spike of advancedNoob. So they ended up trading tib spikes, but Green Zero has not been able to do anything about that tib spike for advancedNoob. Oh, the Orcas coming in once again. They do take quite a few hits, but Orcas do have quite a bit of health as well. And look at that, three veteran Orcas out on the field. advancedNoob going to be rolling up. He does have Predator tanks, which are going to be great at dealing with the Predator tanks of Green Zero. Not so great at dealing with the rocket squads. And unfortunately for advancedNoob, he is low on power. Green Zero, if he can start sniping down some more stuff, he may actually be able to get this airfield. But advancedNoob, is he actually paying attention? He is indeed. There's the power plant on the back end of things, but he loses the watchtower anyway. So advancedNoob, definitely this low power mode is not suiting him very well. He did lose that refinery, which will help with that low power mode, but it's not going to be, is it going to be enough? I mean, he should clean this attack up eventually, but it's already done a fair amount of damage. Green Zero doesn't want to lose too many more of these tanks if he can help it, because if he starts losing all of his Predator tanks without doing any more damage, then we're talking about a bad situation for Green Zero. Although I'm not sure how many Harvesters he was able to clean up, because if he was able to really deny the economy of his opponent on this kind of third base location, I don't actually know what the bases are at this point, but ooh, that command post does still stand for Green Zero through the attacks of those Orcas, and the last two Predator tanks will end up escaping there. He might be able to chase them down or just catch them retreating at a different angle, but advancedNoob will indeed stand, and the proxy war factory from Green Zero, proxy war factory expansion from Green Zero didn't really pay off. APC Engineers also not really paying off for Green Zero. advancedNoob been doing a pretty good job of staying on his toes. Green Zero, you can say the same about him, because he's been moving his MCV all over the place, trying to just keep on top of these expansions and make sure that he's constantly got income, which is something that in other games we have not seen players do quite as well. And then one player like forgets to re-expand, or you know, what have you, they lose an expansion, then they don't get their MCV out in time, and so then they end up not having the eco to re-max their army, and that's what seals their fate. But these two players so evenly matched in this game, neither one having a huge advantage. And I mean, they're going for like literally the same thing for however long this game has been. It's just been pretty much the same tactic the entire time. We have seen them mixing it up with the APCs and the Shatterers, but other than that, it's primarily just been Predator tanks with the Rocket Troopers, and of course Rifleman squads mixed in for that extra anti-infantry DPS. Orcas coming in to clean up one, and maybe even getting that second airfield. The laser fence does go down, I did see it that time. However, Green Zero is not going to be losing that airfield, not at all, and he does have to be careful about those anti-air guns. However, those Orcas need a place to land, and I actually didn't realize that those were Green Zero's Orcas in the air right there. I was wondering why they weren't attacking and why they weren't heading back home, but no, advancedNoob was not able to finish off that airfield. Green Zero will be able to land his Orcas, and Predator tanks are going to be cleaning up that attack squad, which, if you can really call it that, as those Rifleman squads weren't exactly hoping to end the game for advancedNoob. But this game will continue on into Pitbull spam for advancedNoob, and there is actually, that was a really nice scan for Green Zero. He was just like, he's got the power plant back here, and I'm actually curious, how much vision does this give to Green Zero? That actually gives a crazy amount of vision. Like, look at the range of that vision for Green Zero. So, I mean, he can definitely see that there's something going on for advancedNoob, and I don't know that advancedNoob does know about that power plant, and if not, why hasn't he cleaned it up? Ooh! A couple of those, well, those Rifleman squads getting some nice shots off here. I'm not sure if there's a Rocket Trooper inside of that foxhole. No, there is not. Those mines definitely going to be helping out a little bit there, I should think, and advancedNoob sending out more and more Orcas. But is he going to be able to... Oh, he might catch a couple of Predator tanks here, but it's not enough. Oh, these Orcas getting absolutely trapped. AA guns on the ground, going to be helping to clear them up. All but one does go down. He's very close to death, and he has seen some things. Oh, man. That one poor Orca, he's going to be trying to be a hero, but he'll just get trapped by this last anti-air gun. advancedNoob having to be so careful. He's trying to get his money's worth, but can it actually work? The Orcas of Green Zero, they're flying right past this army of advancedNoob, which is probably the best choice, because those Pitbulls might actually be able to wreck the Orcas. The Rocket Troopers on the ground are going to be getting some free shots off. Green Zero not actually paying attention. He's got his Orcas on hold command, hold ground stance, which is how you normally want them, so that they don't waste their rockets on nothing. But this is bad for Green Zero. He's probably just not very happy about what just happened, how many Orcas he just lost, and how they didn't actually do anything. He was definitely looking somewhere else. It's not like he was watching those Orcas just taking damage. He was controlling somewhere else on the map, but we've got a pretty good engagement. The concave is pretty good from advancedNoob, but are all of his units going to be firing for the majority of this battle? The Rocket Troopers trying to get what shots off that they can, but is it actually enough? Green Zero, he's got some nice forces with the, never mind, that Shatterer gets eliminated there. The Orca Strike comes in for advancedNoob, does some nice damage, but it's overwhelming forces here for Green Zero. It looked a lot more even at the beginning of this battle, but it looks like the Rifleman squads, the Rocket Troopers, and the Predator tanks of Green Zero are able to carve through that army of his opponent. advancedNoob falling in that attack and not able to really do the damage that he needed. Orcas coming in for Green Zero. I'm not sure what they ended up attacking, but they got some shots off on something, potentially able to clean up a Harvester or two, and the Watchtower does get sold off. They're trying to clean up those scouting squads. Green Zero He is going to be moving out across the map. advancedNoob, does he have anything to really stop this? Not currently. But there was a lot of points in this game where it's like, this player doesn't have a lot to stop this, and then they end up stopping it anyways. Both of these players have been in that position. Mixing in these shatters is something that I definitely like, especially for just that anti-everything DPS. Of course, not anti-air DPS, but they do great versus everything as long as it stacks up just a little bit there because of the splash damage is really nice. Rocket Troopers getting mixed in as well. advancedNoob needs to make sure that he's doing a little bit better job of focus firing because eliminating the Rifleman squads is not nearly as important as clearing out the Rocket Troopers. Foxholes are going to be going down, and the War Factory is going to be getting focused next. Green Zero wants to make sure that he cleans out as many of these production facilities as he can to stop his opponent's ability to remax that army. Orcas coming out. These are indeed advancedNoobs. Orcas, not Green Zero. Will he be able to get any shots off on the army? Because there's a lot of Rocket Troopers here, and they are inside of those foxholes, which means any sort of Orca strike is going to be difficult. Oh, Green Zero maybe losing a Harvester or two. He could have cleaned up that one for sure. May actually get a third one anyways, and actually the rocket splitting is good enough. Maybe one extra. Oh, he does actually have a couple of extra rockets there. So advancedNoob cleaning up like 4 Harvesters there is definitely going to be very nice for him. But Green Zero needs to make sure that he controls a little bit better, and maybe if that controlling just means that he pulls back everything but the Rocket Troopers, then that is what he needs to do, because he doesn't want to lose these lose the shatters if he doesn't have to. I doubt it'll be the end of the game since he did a fair amount of damage to his opponent, but he potentially could have saved 1 or 2 of those shatterers from going down, or pulled out some of these Rifleman squads to go ahead and do the damage to those Rocket Troopers. Unfortunately, he just didn't quite realize it fast enough. We'll lose a Predator tank as well, which again, just very unfortunate, but it looks like Green Zero getting pushed back. That third base location has been annihilated, kind of the 5:30 base or the 6 o'clock base for Green Zero. And this Tib, has this Tib field ever been completely harvested? I'm not entirely sure. Oh, Orcas clean up another Harvester there. Unfortunate for Green Zero. I'm not sure how much Tiberium was inside of that Harvester. I mean, that might have been a pretty big deal if that was a Harvester full of Tiberium. But at this point, I don't actually know how much Harvesters actually count, because I have no idea how many are actually left out on the map. But I know losing Orcas is not going to be very happy. Green Zero may not be losing the game from that, but at the same time, he doesn't want to be losing those Orcas if he doesn't have to. And he will get a couple of more shots off on these Harvesters. Going for the weakened Harvesters, definitely a good idea there, as well as the ones that are docking. And, ooh, those Pit Bulls cleaning up those Orcas. And here come the Orca Strike, going to be landing a couple of more damage points on that refinery. Green Zero will escape with 1 Orca. advancedNoob does still hold that Tib Spike. Green Zero does still hold that Tib Spike, and advancedNoob does indeed hold this 3rd Tiberium Spike. That's been a lot of money. I'm not sure how long this game is at this point. I can't actually see any timers, but that's a lot of money that's coming over the course of the game from those Tib Spikes, so definitely they do add up. And I mean, if one of these players would have potentially cleaned up the Tib Spikes of their opponent earlier on in this game, maybe it would have been enough to make a difference. Maybe it would have been those extra couple of Predator tanks that their opponent didn't have that they end up winning the game. I don't know if any of the engagements have been that close, but I don't think any of them have. But laser fencing should be able to protect this airfield. It might just be a waste of rockets to go for that, but cleaning up that command post, on the other hand, will not be a waste of rockets, and he does get the kill on the command post. Will actually maybe get the kill on the APC as well if he has enough rockets. Not quite enough rockets to clean up that APC. And I mean, the control from both of these players has been pretty darn good, pretty darn solid for pretty much this entire game. There haven't been, like, super huge micro mistakes from both players that I can think of. There have definitely been some micro mistakes, but some overcommitment as well from each player. But nothing too huge, I shouldn't think. But Green Zero going to be coming in, sniping down 2 more Harvesters. One of those was likely full of Tiberium. And again, we're just seeing this, like, denying of the economy, kind of in a direct fashion, of, like, sniping Harvesters while they're on refineries, sniping them while they're full of Tiberium. I mean, that's money that your opponent is so close to actually having in their bank, and then it's just gone. In just a moment or a couple of seconds, it's just absolutely gone. 1 refinery still here for advancedNoob, and of course the MCV as well will be providing that build radius. And he can start to kind of reestablish his eco, but both of these players are so close to being broken at so many different points in this game. It's kind of silly. I'm not actually sure who's ahead at this point. It seems like they're fairly even, but it's hard to say for sure. Harvester count, I'm not sure who it's actually favoring. They're pretty far spread out. I think it's like 5 in total for advancedNoob. Not sure how many for Green Zero. It's 1 less, maybe even 2 less. Green Zero advancedNoob needs to make sure that he pulls back that 1 Orca. No, he does not actually pull it back. 3 Harvesters do go down there for Green Zero, which, again, in a different game, that would be like, oh, that's maybe game ending, depending on how many Harvesters your opponent has and what the difference is now. But in this case, not so much. Ooh, advancedNoob needs to make sure that he stops because he's got an Orca Strike coming in. He will actually be taking a little bit of damage there on that Pitbull. Very unfortunate for him there. Green Zero going to be doing a bit of damage down here as well with that Rifleman squad. Really not a lot of damage being done by either player at this point. Rifleman squad's in the north end. Oh! I think that was the first time Grenadier squads have actually come into this match. The tech center goes up for like 1 second. That's like the most expensive Grenadier squad possible. Like $2 grand just spent on that tech center. Predator tanks are going to be contending with Predator tanks and APCs from Green Zero, but Pitbulls getting mixed in there as well is going to be very nice. And of course, EMP grenades would have turned the tides of a couple of those battles, but advancedNoob is like, I don't even need them. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't even need EMP grenades. I can just get along without them just fine. And you know what? I don't even really need Grenadier squads to clear out all of the foxholes of my opponent. I don't need anything. I just need a couple of Predator tanks, some Pitbulls, and some APCs. Predator tanks and APCs going to be mixed in here, and yeah, advancedNoob has to be careful with the Orcas, of course. APCs do shoot up, which means you do have to make sure that you don't just hover over the APCs and take too much damage. That AP ammo upgrade is quite nice, and picking off a couple of Predator tanks here definitely going to be a good idea, especially if you can get that APC as well. Will make rocket troopers a bit more effective, which, I mean, he does have a couple of infantry squads, not a whole lot there. But Green Zero finally going to be cleaning up the main base of his opponent, and he does still have this power plant down here in the corner, hasn't even repaired it, doesn't really consider it worth it. And I mean, as long as you don't lose that power plant, it is still providing that power. And I mean, if you're going to be spending money on repairing it, you might want to be spending that money on something else instead of a power plant that is very close to your opponent. An advanced power plant getting cleaned up, but Predator tanks are going to be going down. advancedNoob, does he actually have anything to clean up this attack? He does indeed, but it's in the wrong position. Those Predator tanks are going to be not in the correct spot to deal with this. 1 Orca from Green Zero, it looks like, going to be heading out back across the map. A couple of Orcas from advancedNoob do get caught out of position. advancedNoob, what are you doing, dude? He doesn't have a watchtower going down just yet. It looks like he's got one queued. He does throw it down right there. He should have had at least 2 up at this point. I don't think he's really been doing too much else on the map, but at this point, these APCs are actually carving a path through this base. Green Zero is going to be doing some actual damage here, especially if he can clean up this refinery and then maybe even finish off this refinery as well. He will be cleaning up those Pitbulls as well. These Orcas starting to do a silly amount of damage. Nice hit and run here from advancedNoob, going to be cleaning up 1 APC. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to do much else with that hit and run, although he does control that Harvester to go around the mines instead of just running right through them, and this attack will eventually be getting cleaned up. Green Zero, he's remaxed a little bit on those Predator tanks, and he is going to be able to stop this attack from advancedNoob. Not too much else going to be going on down there, and the command post has been rebuilt. So many aircraft have been produced in this game. And again, advancedNoob just poking in with the Orcas, firing the shots off, and then pulling the Orcas back so they don't take too much damage from those APCs. That is exactly what you want to be seeing, exactly what you want to be doing. Man, the reflections on this map are really, really broken. Look at that. Just the texture's not quite working out, not quite meshing quite well. A little bit of a minor bug there, not a huge, huge deal. It's just kind of been bugging me this entire game. Green Zero, lots of Predator tanks, which is probably the composition for his opponent as well. Of course, rocket troopers could be a potential choice, but if we actually see some nice focus firing from advancedNoob, where he cleans up a couple of Orcas coming in here for Green Zero, we'll be able to clean up a couple of Harvesters, and he could have actually potentially split his rockets. Does he have any more? Nope. Alright, never mind. Doesn't even matter. He was able to clean up both of those Harvesters anyways, and he actually split the rockets perfectly anyways. So advancedNoob getting some more shots off on that Harvester. Green Zero does still have control of this northern base, and he will be running his Orcas up there just to kind of lead them around the map so that they don't get cleaned up, hopefully, by advancedNoob's army. Green Zero starting to look like he actually has a decisive advantage in Predator tanks. He's got the dual War Factory Predator tanks, although that one's not actually building anything, so not really dual War Factory Predator tanks. And one of those power plants likely just purchasing an upgrade. And oh, unfortunately for Green Zero, he does lose an advanced power plant. He has to power down quite a few buildings there. An advanced noob, if only he could actually capitalize on that power down, but Green Zero is most likely going to be able to start a power plant really quite quickly. And then he won't actually have to deal with that low power mode too much longer. He does have quite a few of the AA batteries. And of course, I would expect railguns is the thing that is being upgraded right now. Tungsten shells might be a little bit silly at this point, considering how many Predator tanks he does have. He may not even need railguns at this point. That's been kind of late to go for the man-spam transition. Wait a second, APCs. We don't have very many APCs. We don't have very many rocket troopers. Orcas making strikes against this army would have been a better idea a little bit earlier on in this game. EMP grenades definitely not going to be a factor in this battle. Of course, it didn't actually ever get purchased, but those Orcas could have been making strikes earlier on in this game. And of course, the rocket troopers at this point, they're just too close in proximity to these Predator tanks, and this is too much damage output from Green Zero. Can he actually push on through and make this happen? Watchtowers falling, barracks falling. The production needs to continue for advancedNoob. Does he actually have enough to hold the line here? The barracks are getting sniped down very, very quickly. These Orcas going to be the last best hope of advancedNoob in this game, as we do have a fully heroic Orca out on the field. Now an elite Orca mixed in as well. A lot of these Predator tanks getting cleaned up. Unfortunately for advancedNoob, he does have to run his Orcas back home to get those repairs and to get that ammo as well. And now Green Zero rolling through. Railguns finishes up at the last possible second for this match, and there goes the airfield. These Orcas are stuck in the skies. Do they have somewhere else to land? No, they do not. And if the command post went down, which I think it just did, that means no more airfields, no more Orcas, no more ammo. And these Predator tanks from Green Zero, they're going to be pressing on forward. Can they actually clean this game up once and for all? advancedNoob is looking down and out. He does have rocket troopers and watchtowers in constant production. Green Zero going to be pressing on forward. There's the MCV. It goes down, which means no more barracks, no more watchtower will be produced. And advancedNoob, he's got this last pocket of hope, but without a War Factory, it's just up to those rocket troopers, and this is the saddest fate of those heroic Orcas. Nowhere to land, as far as I know, nowhere to call home. The rocket troopers cleaning up that last Predator tank. Green Zero has been beaten back, but advancedNoob is so close to death, it is not even funny. Sends out the Orcas, hoping to catch a couple of more shots somewhere else out on this map, and the battle markers, I believe, are just the Orcas taking damage. Such a sad fate for those Orcas. Fully heroic, fully epic, and they did so much damage. If only advancedNoob would have been able to do a little bit more with those Orcas, get off another bombing run or two, he would have seen a different fate in this last Orca going down momentarily. But he's not giving the veterancy away to Green Zero, which is kind of important, but at this point, it doesn't even matter. Green Zero will be taking this game on Twilight City, an epic match for sure. If Green Zero finds a way to throw this game right here, right now, I will stop commentating this game. I'll just walk away. If Green Zero throws this game at this point, I mean, he can just go straight APCs. He can just go for tons of watchtowers. It would be so difficult for him to actually lose this game. I think he would actually just have to walk away from his keyboard, because all advancedNoob can do is just build infantry, which means that if you start building the counter to that, then you can clean it up pretty darn easily, especially if we start seeing sniper teams, watchtowers, rifleman squads, anything along those lines from Green Zero is going to be very good at cleaning up everything that advancedNoob has. And look at that, even just camping out in advancedNoob's base, Green Zero going to be able to clean up everything. APCs will be the victor unit in the last few seconds there. Harvester for sale, aka advancedNoob, has been defeated. An awesome match for sure. If you want to check out the replay for yourself, you can do that. It will be linked down below. Of course, if you want to see Spartacus livecast this game, holy cow, that did not feel like 48 minutes. That was an awesome match. Sometimes you get a 20-minute game and you're like, okay, this is dragging on, and it's like, 20 minutes, but it feels like 40. That did not feel like 48 minutes. 2 seconds off Harvester for sale. Could have stuck around for an extra couple of seconds. And look at that game. Economically very close. Green Zero in the lead for the entire thing. And I mean, definitely at the end, that started to show through where Green Zero maxed out on those Predator tanks that one last time. and just pressed on forward. Crazy amounts of units killed and created for both players. Slightly better unit kill to death ratio for Harvester for Sale, but that last push of those rocket troopers, of those Predator tanks rather, was what did it for Green Zero. Harvester for Sale didn't have enough to actually stop that Predator tank push, and that was pretty much it. Rifleman Squad, the favorite unit for both players. I mean, they did produce a lot of them, and in total, 60,000 credits of difference, which actually does break down to 2,000 credits per minute, or nearly there, as not quite 2,000 credits per minute, just under that. But I mean, when you're talking about a 50-minute game there, yeah, Green Zero just ahead pretty much the entire time. Not a whole lot else to conclude from that. But that match, definitely a lot of fun to watch, a lot of fun to cast. And that was like 99.9% tier 1 units. Like rocket troopers, although the Shatterers do kind of the Shatterers and aircraft do throw off that average. But at any rate, Juggernauts were used in that game. And I mean, eventually railguns were used. But other than that, they did indeed play a very minor role. And just those lots of smaller unit engagements versus just like Deathball versus Deathball, definitely a lot more enjoyable. And I'm glad that we don't see that too often. However, that will pretty much be doing it. I hope you enjoyed this game. I certainly did. And of course, thank you all very much for watching. This is Sybert, signing out.